In this video, I'm covering 5 more abilities that most of the Apex player base have been using incorrectly. Even if you don't play any of these legends or have any of these issues with them, you're still going to want to watch this so you can better understand how to combat these legends when they are being utilized extremely well. This video will help build your game sense, and it will also help you become a better teammate. So let's do it. The first is Bangalore smoke. Now this is a serious issue among players who play Bang and also have a Bangalore for a teammate. This is a tough one to talk about because if you know, you kind of just know. But like with most things in Apex, there can be a whole lot of nuance, and her smoke is no exception. So let's cover some quick do's and don'ts with this ability. Don't smoke the enemies if you have just beamed one and you want to close the gap to them. That could help them heal or become evasive. Like if you feel like your team just had an advantage, don't potentially take that away by smoking the enemies and losing your line of sight on them. I see Bangalores do this often and it's kind of backwards. Also, don't smoke your teammates. Most of the time, they don't want to have that done to them. They're not going to be able to see and it could disorient them. The only times I ever smoke my teammates are if they're running from one point to another in some open area and I see them getting beamed. Smoking them in that instance is beneficial because it's helping them take less damage, hopefully. However, most Bangalores end up just smoking in a building when something goes wrong, and it ends up screwing over the whole team. Of course, if you're running Bangalore or you have one on your team, definitely look for digital threats so that you guys are taking full advantage of her smoke. But lastly, let's talk about the Bang trick that has been in the game since day one, but only ever came to light last split on Olympus when some Bangalore mains strongly utilized it. If you can learn to play the edge of the smoke, you will see just enough outside of the smoke cloud, but most enemies will not be able to see you too well. In order to utilize this trick, you're going to want to smoke right at your feet and then move forward ever so slightly. You will notice you're in the edge of the smoke cloud and not fully immersed in it. Now, I talked about this when I made a Bangalore guide back in season 11, but it is a great way to be utilizing her smoke. You only ever want to be fully surrounded by her smoke if you're weak and you need to heal, or you're using digital threats trying to confuse your opponent. But no more smoking your teammates and screwing them up. Number 2 is Pathfinder's grapple. Now, most people when they first use Pathfinder don't understand how the grapple truly works. They see their favorite content creators use him in some sick ways, but can't seem to emulate it themselves. On top of all of that though, there's some mental habits you definitely want to develop while utilizing this legend, so listen carefully. The first mistake players make while using his grapple is they are not in control of the grapple, and therefore their landings end up being kind of sketchy. In order to master this, you're going to want to press jump right when the grapple hook connects to whatever you're attaching to. This will elevate you up and over whatever it is, giving you more elevation, giving you more control. As a result, you'll be clearing more distance, and this will make you more unpredictable for enemies to track you while you're flying through the air. Now, doing this will give you more control over its grapple, but I do want to be clear here. Pressing jump isn't for every single grapple type, particularly when you're grappling something above you like this, or when you want to do a sweeping grapple like this. In these instances, you're really going to want to focus on your trajectory because it's all a game of physics. If you're directly underneath some high ground and you want to reach the roof, you could swing your mouse or joystick in a half circle to achieve this easily. You could press jump while doing so, but it's not necessary, and it's not usually how I do it. Remember, great Pathfinders are always keeping in mind their current cooldown on the grapple. The grapple's cooldown is contingent on how much distance you just traveled. It's the only cooldown in the game that's based on a variable. And there's a balance going on of never being in too risky of a situation without your one tool to reposition. So be mindful grappling into teams without your teammates close by or without a big opening of the fight in your team's favor. And always be assessing when do you next have your grapple available. Number 3 is Lifeline's res. I mean, how many of you have ever had that random teammate playing Lifeline, but they never actually revive you? Or when they do attempt to revive you, it feels like they just set you up and fed you to the sharks. Well, hopefully by you guys smashing the like button on this video, it will be seen by more of those random teammates and they will better understand how to master Lifeline's revive. So next time you go down in a game, well, it won't be the end of the match for you. So let's get into our passive, which is the combat medic. This revive is decent in the right moments. It's certainly not as good as it once was. However, it's still incorrectly used all the time. So if your teammate does go down, you should instantly look to tap the revive. You should practice body blocking for the teammates so they don't get instantly thirsted while they're getting revived. This is what a lot of lifelines do. They tap the revive, run off 10 feet, and the enemy reemerges and boom, you're eliminated. So if you're tapping revive, you should try to see it all the way through. Otherwise, waiting until the enemy clears line of sight or you could knock them will be the better opportunity to then go and press the revive. There's really no protection for the person getting revived except for Lifeline and her gun. She no longer has that shield, so it's up to her to handle it. However, there's a huge misconception from some players who think that Lifeline just needs to revive in every single situation. But that isn't true either, because if Lifeline goes up and presses revive, her gun gets tucked away for a brief second, and if the opponent is close, that could be the difference maker between Lifeline getting knocked shortly after. There's no point in Lifeline reviving if she's gonna die trying. The Lifeline playstyle needs to be focused around being there for your teammates and not being the first one to get knocked in the fight. If you have your drone, be ready to place it out as soon as you get the revive completed. This way your teammate can just focus on popping some shields while their health is getting healed, and boom, they're back in the fight. Try to place the drone behind some cover where that person can presumably heal behind it. I know this is simple stuff, guys, but we all know that there's so many Lifelines out there not doing this in the right methods. So hopefully that clarifies some things around Lifeline. If any of you are loyal viewers of the channel, you would know I've never done a sponsored ad during my videos. That's mostly because I've turned down a ton of offers from brands that I don't want to shield to you. If there's ever something I'm going to talk about, I will make sure it is something I back 100% that I think would be a good fit for my viewers. So if anyone is interested in my Apex Legends coaching, there's a link below to my Fiverr. All of the info is there on my page, and all of the reviews speak for themselves. If anyone is serious about improving at Apex, I suggest checking that out. Okay, now on to the fourth ability, Revenant's Ultimate. This is one of the few abilities in the game that can actually turn out to be a huge liability rather than an asset. Now I know Revenant isn't meta right now, but I also know when I see randoms playing Revenant, they have no real idea of when or how to be using his ultimate. So let's discuss it. Whether you like to play Revenant or you have a Revenant often on your team, if his ultimate isn't being utilized correctly, there is no point in playing this legend. This ability should be used when you are about to push a fight, but not just any fight. It usually has to be a fight where you are approaching a third party or a team from some safe area where the totem can be placed. So a few quick no-nos for this is never put the totem in blatant line of sight of your enemies. Try to stash it behind some cover. Otherwise, if the totem gets destroyed while you guys are halfway between the totem and the team you're approaching, you could be left out in some vulnerable situation. Try to get your whole team to take this ultimate together. Otherwise, a one-by-one approach with this will be pretty ineffective. And never put it too far away if you're just running up to the team you're about to fight. The ultimate has a timer on it. The totem only lasts for 30 seconds from when the last person interacts with it, thereby encouraging your whole team to use it together. Now, while you're in death protection, the timer will last for 25 seconds. So if you aren't close enough for execution with it, as a result, well, it could leave you or one of your teammates super far out of position because two of you already got sent back, but the third's timer ran out and they're in the face of 3 opponents. So keep this in mind while going about utilizing this. The bottom line here is if you are about to take a fight and the totem can be put somewhere low key, use it. Try comboing this ability with other movement mechanics like an Octane jump pad, a Wraith portal, an Ash portal. And this should give you and your team a free push. Now, if you get sent back without a knock, start healing right away because the opponents will probably come looking for you knowing you're down 50 HP. But if you do get a knock or two and get sent back, obviously quickly pushing back to the enemy to finish the fight off is probably your best option. The fifth ability players use incorrectly is Octane's jump pad. Now, first and foremost, stimming while using the jump pad doesn't actually increase your distance on the pad. Now, this doesn't mean it's useless, but don't be fooled by thinking it does. You could still catch more velocity from your landing by stimming first, and if you had to get a brief head start to hit the pad for some reason, using the stim and then the pad could be viable. The biggest mistake players make is they pad into teams. Now, this is very risky, especially if you cannot tap strafe. If you are going to jump pad into a team, you should 100% have a head start advantage, like cracking one of the enemy's armor, hitting them with a damage dealing ability. I mean, any sort of opening that you want to try to capitalize on from closing the gap. That's when you want to be aggressive with it. So many times, Octanes will be ahead of the pack, throw a pad down, get one clip before they even land. Try to utilize it with your whole team in synchronicity, because that's when it's really hard for enemies to deal with this. It's one thing to shoot one person flying out of the air, but it's going to be impossible for them to handle all 3 of you together. Now, you can also be defensive with this jump pad, and using it as a means to get out of a situation can come in handy, but depending on your enemy's line of sight, it could result in one of you or your teammates getting one clipped out of the air. You have to be careful with this ability, but it does have a fairly short cooldown, so be utilizing it often and try not to make stupid plays with it. If you found this video helpful and you want to hear about some more abilities that players are using incorrectly, well, I suggest you click on this video here. Thanks for watching. Peace.